What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another key comparison video. So last time we looked at the N0SA SPX key, this guy right here, versus the CW Morse SP4, which is the CW Morse version of that key. Today we're going to look at the same key, and we're going to compare it to the BaMaTech TP3. Skip, K3FBR, asked me to shoot this one. So we're going to take a look at, these are probably my two favorite portable field keys. And we'll talk about strengths and weaknesses, when I like one over the other. We'll kind of look at what it's like to send on, and we'll talk about adjustments and things like that. Now, I'm not going to rehash everything there is to rehash about this SPX. If you want to see all the dimensions and the specs and key adjustment and all the other stuff about that key, take a look at this video up here in the corner. I'll link the video, this key versus the CW Morse key, and it goes over all that stuff. Now, there are two pertinent dimensions we're going to talk about in relation to this key in comparison with this key, and that will be the weight and the paddle spacing. So if you remember, this key weighed 41 grams, and it was 840 thousandths of an inch across the paddles, okay? So I'm not going to reiterate all of the intricacies about this key, right? It's aluminum. It's got your paddle adjustments there, magnetic return adjustment. It's super light. It's very open. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind when we talk about field use. Sometimes having a key that's wide open is bad, right? It's going to get full of stuff. However, it can also be good, which we'll talk about. Like, for instance, if you get this thing packed full of snow, this key is going to be easier to clean out than the other one is, but it's going to get packed full of snow easier than the other one is. So there are some advantages and disadvantages, but let's take a look at the BaMaTech TP3. I'm going to go ahead and unplug this cable. Now, that's one of the things I like about the TP3 is it does have an audio jack, okay? So this does have a removable cable, which I prefer. So this key, if you remember the SPX, this guy is made by Larry N0SA. They're made in St. Louis, Missouri. They're $140 and $15 shipping, if I remember correctly. Hard to get. The TP3, in its standard form, which I also own, this is the Stay Wild limited edition key. These are only available for short periods of time during the year. This key comes from Germany. It's made by a guy named Marcus. They're 161 euros. I forget what shipping was, but it was about 15 bucks. And I think he just charged us a straight $161. He just converted euros directly into dollars without doing the conversion rate, which is nice because that actually made it a little cheaper. So this key's slightly more expensive, but it's billet aluminum. It's got aluminum paddles. It's got a very thick, nice acrylic top. Again, it does have a 3.5 millimeter jack. On the bottom, we have 4 very strong magnets. This particular key, like I said, this is a limited edition key. These keys were made in 2043. So if you look at the date right there, you can see this key isn't made for another 19 years. We actually got a deal on these because they were mismarked. So this key is really a fantastic key. Let's take a look at some of the dimensions on this thing. And again, if you want the dimensions for the SPX key, take a look at the SPX video. So the body of this key is 1.970 inches. The overall length from the jack to the end of the paddles is 2.935 inches. It is 777 thousandths of an inch thick and 1.377 inches wide. All right. Now, one thing about this key, it has these rubber covers over the paddles. They're nothing more than automotive vacuum caps. That's literally all these are. All right. They come with these on the key. And that covers up the paddles. Now, I leave them on there in the winter because it keeps the key from getting cold, but in the summer, I'll take them off. I like the feeling of the aluminum better. And it makes this key a lot sharper. If you get one of these, it's going to feel a little soft when you send on it. That's the give from these caps. When you take those off, this key is actually quite positive. It's not quite as positive as this key. This key's a little more positive when you send on it, but this one's very good, okay? It just feels a little different. Like I said, I leave those on during the winter to keep the paddles from freezing my fingers off. Now, if we look at the paddle spacing on this key, it is about 450 thousandths of an inch All right, so the other key was 840. You can literally take the paddles on this key and put them in between the paddles on this key. All right, it's that much of a difference. Now, this one's actually a little too narrow, and this one's actually a little too wide. 5/8 of an inch, like that's what's on this UR5 CDX right here. That's about my sweet spot. All right, so this one's actually a little too narrow. This one's actually a little wide, but I can send on both of them, no problem. Now, let's take a look at what this TP3 weighs. All right, because that matters sometimes. I'll put these caps back on. Not gonna worry about getting them seated too well, but we'll get them back on there. All right, so like I said, that SPX weighed 41 grams. So we're gonna weigh this key, we're gonna weigh it with the cable because the cable's attached to the SPX and you can't really use the key without a cable. So we will weigh it with the cable just to make things an apples to apples comparison. So the key and the cable together are 82 grams. So it's double the weight of the SPX. So that's something to consider. This is kind of a chonker. This key is not ultra light, all right? It is more robust than this key. This key is very light, very delicate. This key is a lot more robust. If you're looking for ultra lightweight, this is probably better. Now, can you go lighter than this? Sure, you could go like an N0SA or a tiny paddle. I have one of those, that's great. Or like a K6A or K3D printed paddle or something. But for like a really nice key, this is probably about as light as you're gonna get. Now, on this TP3, there are some things you've got to consider. So when you go to make adjustments on this key, it comes with an Allen wrench, right? And there are 4 set screws in the bottom next to the magnets. These magnets are very strong. I have a jeweler's block that I can attach this to, then I can use it kind of like a base station key. Those 4 little Allen screws unlock the adjustments for the paddle gap and the magnetic return. So you loosen those, and then you've got 2 flathead screws here in the back and 2 flathead screws here in the front. The ones in the back adjust the magnetic tension. The ones in the front adjust the paddle gap. But here's the thing. This screw and this screw on the right adjust the left-hand paddle. If you look at the paddle, it comes up and over. The screw back here and this screw in the front adjust the right paddle. It's backwards. So when you go to adjust this, that's going to throw you for a loop because you're going to be making paddle adjustments. And you're going to be like, man, why is that not changing? And then you check this one and it's super loose or something. Remember, it adjusts the opposite side. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind with this key that threw me the first time I used mine. Now, this key is enclosed. You can see that it is, I'm trying to get that back on there as best I can for now. You can see this key is pretty much fully enclosed. The only place it's open is here in the front. You can see your contacts right there. They're brass. You could theoretically get dirt or snow or something packed in there and it make the key unusable, but it's a lot less likely than this key because this key is wide open. That being said, if I get a bunch of snow in this key, it's going to be a whole lot easier to clean out than this one because this one only is open in the front. You almost have to take this acrylic top off to clean it out. So that's something to consider. So let's take a look at what it's like to send on these keys. So we'll start with the SPX. I've got my KX2 here. I have a dummy load on it, but I shouldn't need it because I have the box turned off. So we'll go ahead and plug the key into the radio. Make sure we've got enough. We should be able to hear this. So turn that up just a little bit. So this key is very crisp, very sharp, very nice to send on. All right, super nice to send on, very precise. It is a little small to hold on to. I find it a little more comfortable though. This key has more rounded edges. The bottom edge on this TP3 is a little sharper and this key is a little wider and I have pretty small hands, so I find that a little bit sharp. I find this one a little more comfortable. If you've got big hands though, this key is awfully, awfully small. All right, so let's swap keys. We'll go ahead and put the TP3 on there. And again, I find on this key that if I hold it a little more vertically, it's easier to send on. Because if you look at how small those paddles are compared to the paddles on the SPX, they're tiny, all right? And because they're tiny and they're close together, I find that if I hold this a little more vertical, I actually send on it better. All right, super nice to send on, very crisp. Like I said, it feels a little mushy with those caps on there though. So like I said, if you buy one of these and you find it feels a little mushy, take those off and see what you think. But overall, it's a nice key to send on. You know, it's, like I said, it's a little narrow. So like when I squeeze key, it's a little narrow to squeeze key. I do it, but it is a little narrow. I find it a little easier with a little bit wider paddle gap. And like I said, those paddles are awfully small. So that is something to consider. All right. So let me go ahead and kill the radio here. And let's go ahead and talk about these two keys, who they're for, strengths and weaknesses. If I can pick a winner, I can't. I can tell you right up front, there's not going to be a winner between these two keys. I think for most people, the TP3 is probably a better choice for a number of reasons. A, they're available. Right, this you can have in about 2 weeks. Well, the basic version of this, you can't get the green one, but the gray and red one you can get in about 2 weeks. This guy's really hard to get. This is a little more delicate key, right? This is a little more robust. You can kick this one around a little more and not worry about it. All right, it does have magnets on the bottom, so if you're somebody who wants to attach it to a base, it's much easier with this key than it is with this key. Right, this key does come with 3M. It's kind of like Velcro. Or you can see there are holes in the bottom that are tapped. They go right through you. They're on the top too. You could mount it to something with those as well. But it's easier to mount this. It's got magnets. Stick it on, you're ready to roll. However, if you're somebody who's looking to go real light, this key is a better choice. This key is, like I said, twice as heavy. This key is a little lighter. Well, it's half as heavy. And I find it to be a little more precise to send on. I find it a little bit crisper and nicer to send on, and I like how big the paddles are. I don't like the space. I wish these were a little narrower, but I actually prefer a little bit wider over a little bit narrower. That's just me. Again, that's going to be different for everybody, but I send perfectly fine on both these keys. I think I send a little better on this key than I do on this key. You couldn't ask me to just choose one. I guess if I had to only choose one, that'd be a hard question. I guess my question would be, what am I going to do with it? If it's going to be my only key that I have to do everything with, I'm probably going to take this guy because I could use it in the shack easier because I can stick it to a base. If you said it was going to be your only field portable key that you had to do everything with, I'd probably take this guy just because that's lighter. It's a little more packable. So if I was doing like hike up sodas and stuff, I mean, you're only talking grams, right? But this is still several ounces heavier than this guy is. Okay. So like I said, they're both fantastic keys. You can't go wrong with either one of them. Lighter, a little more delicate, a little crisper to send on. Heavier, a little more robust, a little bit more tolerant to things like dirt and snow. Maybe not quite as precise, but it's pretty precise. This key is by no means a slouch. It is very, very, very precise. Like I said, I feel like this one's just a tad bit more precise. And that's a little subjective, but that's just me. So like I said, you can't go wrong with either one of these keys. If you can get your hands on either one of them, do it. Like I said, you're going to have a lot easier time getting that than you will this. And I think for most people, that's probably the key you're probably going to want to go with. Just because it is less delicate, it's a little more versatile, right? This guy is a kind of a one-trick pony. It's super lightweight, a little hard to hold on to. This is easier to hold on to. You can put it on a magnetic base, things like that. So both fantastic keys. Again, I have two of these, and I have a second key from Larry coming. When I get that, I will compare this key to that. But yeah, BaMaTech TP3, amazing key. N0SA SPX, also an amazing key. Probably the two best portable field keys that I've used thus far. There are keys out there like the Bengali Traveler, the Bengali Adventure. The problem I have with both of those keys, well, the Traveler's awfully big for what it is, and it's very light. So you can't use it like, for instance, my Expedition, right? My Bengali Expedition, this key weighs about 11 billion pounds. So it doesn't move around. The Traveler moves around, right? So, and it's awfully big for what it is. It's also expensive. The Adventure isn't really designed to be held in your hand. It's designed either to be mounted on the base that it comes with, or the adapter for the KX2 or the 705 or something like that. And it's also obscenely expensive. However, I would like to try one, but I think this style key suits my operating style better. So at any rate, folks, like I said, both fantastic keys, can't go wrong with either. At the end of the day, buy the one that suits your operating style. I think for most people, this is probably going to be the key you're going to want to buy, just because it's way more available and it's a little more robust and it's a little more versatile. But like I said, if you're like me and you're somebody who wants real light and you want a key that feels amazing to send on, this would be the key to buy, I think. So at the end of the day, like I said, both amazing keys. You can't really pick a winner. You can't go wrong with either one. All right. So thanks again, everybody, for watching. I really do appreciate it. Until the next one, 7-3.